Yeah, Kevin does a nice job. He's a very impressive young driver. Does a nice job in anything he gets in. Ran a lot of K&N East Series races back a couple of years ago and did a nice job.
Just in front of him, that 32 of Brandon McReynolds. We saw Brandon McReynolds use patience to get up to the front of the field at Daytona earlier this year. Once he was up there, ran a very smart race right up until he came out of turn 4 and then ran out of fuel.
You know, I know that that's been talked about a lot at our shop. You know, obviously Brandon's a part of the Turner Motorsports camp, and they've been so close, so many races. They've run these speedway races. I know Steve Turner really enjoys the ARCA series. His son-in-law James Busher obviously won some races in the ARCA series. So, you know, I know that they put a lot of effort into this program, and Brandon's done a great job. I mean, he's a great race car driver, but he's a really good person, really good kid. And so I'd love to see him get up there in victory lane and you know, be able to push after all the bad luck they've had here after the last few races.
You mentioned get into victory lane. You know, it was 20 years ago yesterday that Brandon McReynolds was in victory lane here.
Just not in a race car.
He wasn't very old then.
Yeah, he wasn't very old.
He was a young man, and he was in there after Davey Allison won the race.
I was talking to Mark Rett, crew chief for Brandon McReynolds, and he said, hey, at Daytona, I led the 80th lap. That was the prescribed distance, but unfortunately, we had green-white checkers and went beyond that, and he ran out of gas, as we talked about, with about 200 yards from the start-finish line.
You know,
Ray Dunlap.
Rick, let me add a little bit on Brandon McReynolds. That is not the same car that they had at Daytona. They actually had this car prepared and ready to race at Daytona for James Busher and decided not to run it. But after they looked at a couple of different things in testing, they decided this was the car to bring to Talladega. So they had a great piece down there, and they feel like this one may even be a little bit better when it comes to aero.
So right now, Brandon McReynolds running in the 5th spot. It is Matt Lofton, Brandon Davis, Chad Hockenbrough, Chris Busher, and Brandon McReynolds, your top 5. Then Swindell, Blackburn, Reed, Ferrier, and Williams, your top 10.
We've only run 34 laps now, so I figure in about 10 more laps, that's when the crew chiefs of these cars up front that haven't stopped will start sweating a little bit. What do you think, Justin?
You know, they're all second-guessing themselves, and that's one job that I would not want to have is having to make that decision as to when it's time to pit, when it's not time to pit. So they're going to start sweating it out, but you know, one of the good things here is if they pit under green, you're usually not going to go a lap down. And so, you know, you hope if nothing else, maybe the cautions will help you out. So I think these guys are pretty safe, but obviously they're going to want to, if they're leading the race or running the top 5, they're going to want to stay that way.
The lead pack beginning to separate themselves now from another group that was running just behind them. So we now have about 3 packs running out on the racetrack.
See at the back of that front pack, Ryan Reed, he was our Messini rookie spotlight, doing a nice job here, staying with that lead pack up in the top 10.
What used to be the second pack in that group that came onto pit road to top off with fuel, they're starting to fall back in line. A couple guys running side by side. Stay with us here on Speed. Monday Night Speed welcomes you to the heart of stock car with NASCAR Race Hub. We'll highlight all the bump drafting excitement from Talladega, plus get up to the speed on the biggest stories in NASCAR. NASCAR Race Hub, that's Monday night, 6 and 11 Eastern, only on Speed. On the chip, well, you can't really get to a chip here at Talladega, but you'd like to. You'd like to get that speed if you could, but you've got to fall in line. And right now, everyone is in line behind Matt Lofton in the 16. He has led since the drop of the green flag, and he has not come off the racetrack for a pit stop, and that could come to haunt him here in about 15 laps.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time before these guys will have to make their way down pit road. Take a look at the sun here. This is Zach Ralston right here. Just passed through the area that was really bad with the sun, but you know, he's trying to stay in line, obviously, behind that 94 of Steve Blackburn.
You know, the sun here is brutal because the windshields get sandblasted. You're right up there against the guy in front of you. You're getting the windshield sandblasted. There's oil, there's water, there's all kinds of stuff coming off the other guy's cars, and you're so close to them that now it goes onto you instead of onto the ground, and that just makes the sun glare. You
know, so many times I've talked to you drivers, and when you talk about Talladega, you say, you know, it's not physically demanding, but mentally demanding. It's unbelievable how difficult this race is to run because you're constantly thinking. You've got to worry about the sun now. You've got so many things that are going on that and you've got so many people talking to you at the same time.
Absolutely. You know, the spotter pretty much will never stop talking around this racetrack, and the crew chief's trying to butt his way in there, and obviously, like you said, the sun's a big deal you have to deal with. And not only are you trying to know what you're going to do and think about the moves you're going to make, but you're trying to think about the guys behind you and in front of you, what moves they're going to make, and it definitely it makes you physically no problem, but mentally worn out.
I'm going to talk to your crew chief, Jimmy Elledge, and talk about the fact that you said he tries to butt in when you're racing here.
He's pretty good at getting a hole to fill it, but he doesn't talk a whole lot at the super speedways, that's for sure.
Here's Sean Core right here running behind the 90 of Zach Ralston. We were actually running with Ryan Reed a few moments ago. He was behind Steve Blackburn. Ryan running in the 8th spot right now. Sean Core right now is being shown in the 10th position.
And again, he's a part of the second pack. The first pack is up in front of him there. Second pack running back here.
You'll notice that sun didn't seem near as bad once you're outside of the car.
Yeah.
Inside the car, that windshield's at such an angle that it just really glares, and it's pretty much miserable to look at.
Yeah, this is the pack that's somewhat the middle pack now, led by that 90 of Zach Ralston.
He's being shown 1 lap down, but remember, Mark Thompson, 4th in line right here, is the guy, the first car 1 lap down.
Right.
So he's in position for the Aaron's Lucky Dog should the caution come out, or by virtue of the fact that some of these guys are going to be making pit stops here pretty soon.
Exactly.
Steve Blackburn is the only one of this group right here that has been to pit road.
And that was because he spun coming out of turn number 4. And that's the amazing thing right now. He's running 7.
You know, he's going to have a little bit of a window, but he's only going to have about 15 laps. So not exactly where he wants to be. But he's going to be in a little bit of trouble if all these guys peel off, because now he's at the back of this pack, but he's got a long way to go to catch the guys that have been on pit road. I am kind of wondering, you know, you look at some of the guys like Frank and Will and some of the guys that have already pitted. I just wonder if they're not maybe hanging back a little bit, knowing that these guys are going to have to pit and not get themselves in any melees that might come from the guys trying to get to pit road.
Not pushing the situation, racing early in this one because they know that they're going to have to, the group in front of them is going to have to pit. They could then inherit the lead and be the front pack for a while, at least until they'll have to come to pit road.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, with green flag pit stops here, you're going to gain a good 3/4 of a lap on the guys that are going to pit. So if you're straight away behind them, you get a half a lap, and I'd like to be leading by a half a lap at the end of the race.
Now, we talked about strategy, and both of you said that at the time it looked as though Matt Lofton was doing something that was smart. We've just passed.
Justin said it.
We've just passed lap 44. We're about to start on lap 45, which means from here on out, if they come to pit road, they could make it the rest of the way.
Yes.
So if a caution does come out, they do look extremely smart, because the other guys that are back there that had taken that opportunity to come onto pit road a little bit later, they're still going to have to come onto pit road one more time. Right, Ray?
And Rick, it looks to me like some deals are being put together down here on pit road for the front 4 cars all to pit together. What I'm hearing is that they will take the flag at lap 52 and go around, come down pit road on 53. So look for that front 4 to work together. Chris Buescher just said, yeah, I'm with you. That's okay. And Chad Hackenbraugh also has said he's in. Haven't heard from the 99 yet, but it looks like the front 4 will pit together.
You know, the good news for Steve Blackburn right now, we talked about him being by himself. Well, Mark Thompson, who's in that lead pack right now, he pitted on lap number 24, so he actually has 10 more laps than does Steve Blackburn. So Steve will have somebody to run with when these guys peel off if we go green till then.
We're going to slip away quickly, take a quick break before we expect these guys to make their way onto pit road for green flag pit stops. Aerial coverage brought to you by DirecTV. Only DirecTV gives you dedicated driver channels, so you'll never miss a second of your driver's race. Call 1-800-DirecTV. Getting very close now to that impromptu green flag pit stop that we're hearing being put together for the top 4 race cars on the racetrack. Again, Matt Lofton has been out on the track since the drop of the green flag. He has not had anyone in front of him. He has been the race leader. Right behind him, Brandon Davis, Chad Hockenbrough, Chris Buescher, and Brandon McReynolds, your top 5.
Yeah, Chris Buescher and Brandon McReynolds were able to get by the 66 car, Mark Thompson. They went around some lap cars. Let's take a look back here just a lap ago here. You see him go way to the high side. Chris Buescher got a little bit of a run on Mark Thompson, jumped to the outside, took him and Brandon McReynolds, got by Mark Thompson. I think it's a good thing because Justin and I were talking during the commercial. You see the damage on the left side of that 66 car, Mark Thompson? That car appears to be all over the racetrack.
It really does. And anytime you get damage to the suspension here at Talladega, it's really easy to make one of these cars wander and dart. And so, you know, we were watching him move around, and that's not a result of what he's doing in the car. That's just a result of the car wanting to do that. So I'm sure those guys are glad to get around him, and especially now that they're going to be making deals to come down to pit road, you know, having him out of the way is going to be a good thing, especially for those first 5, because those are obviously the guys that are all teaming up together.
And it's looking like it's going to be within the next 2 laps. They've talked about lap 52. We're on lap 51 now. 50 are in the books. Only 44 to go in this race.
Right now, these guys are really hoping for something. You know, whatever it is, they need a reason to be under caution.
Are they screaming debris?
Yes. Yeah. It's amazing what little things you see when you're looking for a caution.
Jim Trado.
We talked about Mark Thompson. He's one of the 5 Venturini cars here. There's 2 of them in the top 10 right now. Running 7th at this current time is the 15 of Ryan Reed. His crew chief, Keith Hankin, just walked down and talked to the other Venturini teammate in the top 10, the 5-5 of Kevin Swindell. And the crew chief there is Keith Caldwell. Keith told me they can go to about lap 60. Keith told me on the 15 to about lap 63. They just connected, so I expect them to come together in the next 10 laps.
So again, passing by some of the slower lap traffic right now. Here's your lead pack. Putting a few more cars a lap down.
And remember, these guys don't make that many green flag pit stops. So, caution flag's out. They're not going to have to make one now.
And that just changed everything. We talked about them yelling debris. Well, there was some on the racetrack.
You know, these guys are really, really pumped right now. But like we said earlier, Frank can come down pit road and not have to worry about putting tires on. A lot of these guys are going to probably take tires because they've gone through a bunch of debris. They've run 51 laps now. So I mean, they're at the fuel window obviously, but they may want to put tires on just to go to the end.
Is this a situation where the drivers that came down topped off a little bit later, is it 1 can of fuel? Can they do that, or will they need to potentially put 2 cans in to get them topped off for the rest of this race?
I think 1 can would be enough.
I think 1 can will be enough. Don't be surprised if somebody doesn't stick the 2nd can in there, just to make sure.
You know, you talk about a green white checker, you're liable to run another 10 laps just on 1 green white checker, and we could have more attempts than 1.
We've talked about the fuel window for these cars anywhere from 50 to 55 laps. We've got 42 laps to go, so if they can top it off, they should be good for at least a couple green white checkers if that happens.
Yeah, but that 1 can we're talking about may not top off.
Right.
Some of these guys like Frank and Will Kimmel and some of the others that pitted back on lap number 26.
It's amazing, you know, sometimes you can actually get rid of the first can. You know, these cans are full and they weigh quite a bit. It's over 100 pounds when they're completely full of fuel. When they plug that in, the less fuel you have in there, the slower it flows. So sometimes it's almost better to get about half of that first can and toss it back over the wall, get a fresh can. Even though it takes a little time to do the exchange, it sometimes is quicker than letting that first can dumped all the way out.
Aaron's lucky dog. We talked about Mark Thompson running up there with the lead pack. He was running up with the lead dogs. He's the Aaron lucky dog, so he'll get his lap back and be able to get back on the lead lap, but they're going to have to do a little bit of cosmetic work to that car to try to get it to handle a little bit.
Well, I'm not sure about the cosmetics, but you see the left front tire, all the letters are gone. The Hoosier letters are gone. So that car may have a toe-in situation too. So they may want to take time here because he's the Aaron's lucky dog. We'll have to start at the very back of the pack. They may want to take time to look at that toe, and they may be able to adjust that and help that situation.
Well,